Sorry. Yeah.
Hello, G.
Mm, hello. Ja.
Can you hear me and see me?
Just a second.
Yes, Pooja, we can.
Yes, it's clear. We can hear you and see both
Hi,
clearly.
Uma. Hi, Priya.
Hi, welcome. Hi, welcome, Pooja.
Around at the farm.
Namaste, everyone. Welcome to a wonderful Sunday morning at 10 o'clock. And thank you so much for joining She Evolve's session. So, just to give a brief about what is She Evolve and who is organizing it. So, She Evolve is an attempt towards finding out beautiful stories towards new creation, learning from different journeys through 12 different speakers, and then consolidating them and finding what are the qualities which emerges out through this. It is brought by ICE Trust, which was founded in 1999 somewhere by Mr. Anto Vincent, and now his legacy is carried over by Arul and Uma, who are with us today. And so happy to have part of this facets of She Evolves. So apart from a She Evolves, which is more on woman empowerment and understanding more of the journey, we also have other verticals like education, healing, youth above 60, which is the flagship programs of Mr. Ento Vincent, uh, and about the nature. So today we have with us Pooja R Bhale from Pune. Uh, to introduce her, it's quite a lot, so many things about her. So I will formally introduce her first and then hand it over to her to listen more about her journey, her inner practices, and more. I request others to keep your mic muted throughout the session unless there is any question towards the end. So we have a separate question answer sessions towards the end. So where you can ask questions. So Pooja, by profession, by qualification, is a conservation biologist. Apart from that, she has learned so many things from leadership and coaching, Reiki, telepathic animal communications, NLP. She is the director, founder of Protectora Ecological Foundation, which works towards raising the awareness about our connection with the earth. One of the flagship programs of PEF, the Protectora Ecological Foundation, is the Farm and Love. So the farm is the main project. Apart from a monthly journal known as Kindness, in the farm there are more than 40 animals with whom Pooja lives in a small or a big tent. Spiritual ecology is the niche space of the farm of Pooja and the Protectora. She is also a professor and visiting faculty. Yeah, sorry, just a second. Yeah, and she has been teaching since age 24. She is also a sportswoman and plays rugby for Maharashtra team. She has traveled extensively for her work. She is the light worker and she wants to take every action with that loving kindness. Every act of the life makes loving kindness. And a lot more to hear from you, Pooja, today and fill the flow. So over to you, Pooja. Yeah.
Thank you, Vaibhav, and thank you, the ICE Trust, for having me. Please just let me know if I'm inaudible at any point. If the dogs at the farm where I'm sitting and doing this right now start to bark too much, I might quickly mute. Otherwise, all you hear is barking dogs. A very good morning to everyone. I'm here in Pune right now at a place called the Farm, like Vaibhav explained, and they've given me a very tough job. They've told me to go on a free flow, no question asked talk, kind of a kind of an opening. So he's already introduced me, so I won't go into a lot of lot of details about introduction in terms of who I am and what it is that I do. But the word conservation biologist to very many people is like, yaane kya? What does that even mean? And conservation biologists are basically those people who ended up studying wildlife conservation and studied animal biology, and then kind of bring the two together to look at the formation for policy, for conservation policy, for how protected area habitats are supposed to be demarcated, what maybe authorities need to do to protect a certain species, and so on. So I come from a hardcore wildlife training background. I've been raised in Pune and pretty much left home when I was 18 years of age to pursue my passion. And I think one of the things in my internal journeys, I've always known what I've wanted to do. I think right since I was about 7 or 8 years of age, I knew what I didn't want to do. I knew that I don't want to be in four walls. And my parents have a huge hand to play in this, to the effect that, they sent us on camps and treks and, lots of outdoor places. And so the love for nature began very, very young. By the age of 12 or 13, I knew that, what, दीवारों में तो हम बैठ नहीं पाएंगे. Anyways, I was too much of a rebel right since I was a little kid, and then putting me in a walled environment would have been impossible. So that's how the wildlife, the purpose of knowing that I'm going to do something outdoors happened, which essentially meant that I always knew that I'm going to end up having to do something very, very different, and that's what brought the degree to me. I spent the formative years of my life being very driven by activism, very driven by shouting, screaming, telling people that, this is not how things are done. This is not how we should destroy the planet. I would pick fights at traffic lights and, pick up trash if people were dropping it. And then, the typical Indian would go that, why, it's your daddy's or what? And I said, no, but I'm going to pick it up if you're not going to pick it up. So there was a lot of aggression in the early days of work where, it felt necessary to go and change the world and teach people that the world needs changing and teach people that their habits need changing and a lot of stuff like that. But life always has other plans, right? You're doing one thing, and a professor at university told me very nicely, in fact, a conservation professor, that two things I remember that Professor Richard Lindsay said. One was that conservation is about people. You do not need to go and tell tigers that they need to be saved. It's about people. So you might never ever end up working in a forest or with animals, but you will still end up becoming a phenomenal conservationist because you have to work with people. The other thing he told me is life is what is going to happen when you're busy making other plans. So here I'm planning activism campaigns. I'm planning like loads of different things related to how the city needs to be cleaned and how children need to, baag bachao, jungle bachao, and all these various different campaigns. And I was sharing earlier when we were doing this, we were doing the mock-up to understand what I'm going to bring to this wonderful initiative today. And on cue, Tadi has decided to bark. So what I was going to bring to the table was there's something that shifted, and there was me doing research. So I spent many years working with snakes, working with leopards, being alone in a forest and picking up leopard potty. And as glorious as it sounds, that's like the best thing researchers can do: find the animal poop and look at what did they eat. Oh wow, they ate a dog today. Oh wow, they ate this and that today. And somewhere it started getting to me that I'm doing a lot of this work. How is it creating impact to the ones who are actually causing the problem to the planet? So the first question actually started off with, how is this creating impact? This is great for me. I can write research papers and I can produce fantastic scientific publications which will eventually impact. Just one second. Sorry, people walked in and then the dogs went off. I hope I'm still audible even if the dogs are barking a bit.
Absolutely, Pooja. Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
But they'll come and bark in front of me. Can you go? Like I said.
We can say hello as well.
I will show you around, which is why I'm on my phone actually.
Sure. Absolutely. Please go on. We can hear you.
Sorry. So something started shifting, and I remember very categorically the big shift that happened. I was working for an organization in Delhi, a force to reckon with on illegal wildlife trade and anti-poaching work. And one of my job descriptions there as conservation officer was to go to posh Delhi schools, because they're the ones who had the money. So to go to posh Delhi schools and talk about how Bagh Bachao, Jungle Bachao, that the tiger is necessary to the Indian ecosystem. And of course, that all being true, an eighth standard kid got up and asked me, "Ma'am, this is all great. What am I supposed to do?" And I was sharing the other day that I'm standing in front. I've been given the authority to be the speaker for that day. So kuch to bhi jawab dena pada bachche ko. I had to give some answer to the kid and say that, this is what you should do. You should petition and you should raise awareness and you should read more. But in my heart, I knew I had not just given this kid a justified answer and not empowered this child to be a change maker at all. And that is where I remember very definitively the shift inside started happening. That I was given an audience of 50, 60 impressionable kids. And of course, they were very impressed with the fact that I'm a confident speaker and all of that. But that would be it, right? Pretty face came and spoke to us about pretty things, and then what? And I just felt like, okay, something something is missing, and I need to go back and see how we empower people. How can we actually get this kid to be a change maker? Soon after, I quit my job from Delhi, and then the internal journey began. At the same time in my life, because this is about She Evolves, I always believe that hearts change only for two reasons: either they've been opened or they've been broken. And I have been fortunate enough to have both done to me, or have both experiences several amount of times. So specifically at that time when I returned from Delhi, I was going through a massive life shift, because it felt like my heart was being opened massively to look at so much more. But ironically, at the same time, I was going through a huge heartbreak, after a 6-year relationship with someone. So life was just like throwing all these things at me, which only meant that I had to seek answers inside of me. That there was nothing outside of me that could be resolved. That something had to kind of, be answered within. And then I sat down with myself and started asking, okay, if we had to empower this child, if we had to empower people, if we had to be change makers, what is the gap? The gap is not that the leopard was eating the dog, or that snakes are showing up in cities, or tigers are going, uh, you know, disappearing. The gap is somewhere else, and I didn't have that answer. I would like to believe I have a little bit of that answer now. However, that introspection with everything I was going on in my personal life, because I was going to return home as a 30-year-old to my parents' house for the first time in, 15 years. I had left when I was 18, which meant mom and dad are going to ask a lot of questions that I wasn't prepared to answer. So at age about 30, 31, when I came back, I had all these things that I was seeking answers for. And that's when Reiki entered my life, because I was like, you know what, I'm in too much pain. I need help. I need support. And I think a lot of us over here are evolved enough to know that asking for help in itself is such a big barrier, right? We have so much stigma associated with saying that I need to get into therapy, or I need to seek support, or I need to ask for support, because that implies that I'm accepting something's off kilter, something's off balance. So that's where my journey inwards began. And then, the rest is pretty much history, to the effect that once you start looking inside, everything kind of just opens up and you realize that everything's on the inside. And where Pooja Bale, the teenager who led a campaign at age 10, was Pooja Bale, the 32-year-old who realized that she can't change the world, because even changing herself is so hard. How can she go and tell the world to change? Because the simplest of habits that she wants to change for herself are extremely difficult. So the moment you realize that changing yourself is so hard, you give up trying to change the world, and you start trying to, drive the change from action, from practice, from rather than preaching, which is what as an activist I was doing. Though I was walking my talk, it suddenly became I need to kind of do my work with all sacredness and all sincerity, and it'll have ripple effects. And 11 years into what Protectera was formed as, 11 years in, I can very proudly say that we are creating ripples in many ways by sheerly being sincere about what we do. We work in a space called spiritual ecology, which essentially looks at the fact that uh, the gap that I was speaking of is the fact that we're disconnected. We're disconnected from the mother. We're disconnected from the source. In cities, we live in high-rise apartments, so we're just not even connected to the ground anymore. Walking barefoot has become an issue. Eating with mud on your hands is a crime, yet putting sanitizer, which is full of poison, on your hands is okay. The level of disconnect that we have now got uh, is so glaring that the one thing that I believe that I can keep doing is bringing people closer to nature in whichever way. So we do that through the farm, which I'll walk around in a moment. We do that through bringing children out to nature. We do that through getting into meditations, because again, the barrier of getting out into nature comes from the fact that we are not even connected to the self. So we do a lot of meditative work with people, with full moon circles, new moon circles. And a lot of the kids I've worked with who know me as the hardcore snake catcher lady, wildlife lady, come to me like, Pooja Tai, what have you, I mean, why are you doing meditation? How is that even linked? In fact, just very recently, Umaji, one of these kids I worked with, when from the time he was 9, has gone on to study wildlife studies in Australia now. And he came, and he was missing for the last 3 years, and he said something very interesting to me. He like, I'm sorry I've been missing for 3 years, but I want to come back home now, like home to Protectera, because that's where he grew up with us. And he like, but I don't know, suddenly you were this crazy lady who, you have a snake in her pocket ever so often. And then you were, next thing I know, you're sitting in dhyan and saying, okay, everybody shanti. And he like, I didn't know where my puja thai got lost. But he's now 22 years old, and he came back, and he's like, perhaps that's your journey, and perhaps you thought that was necessary, and can I please come back home? Will you still take me in? And it was so amazing to see that, you know people don't realize how closely connected our internal spaces are with our external space. um, I think I was telling Uma and Arul and Vaibhav and Priya when we were doing the mock that the hardest thing to do is to sum up 38 years in 20 minutes. But to kind of take the essence of the story, there I will share a story I'd read. I'm not particularly religious. I'm very deeply spiritual. I believe in higher energies. However, in terms of God and temples and all that stuff, it's not made for me. Yet the story is about uh, Indian gods. So one day, man decided to go and abuse all the superpowers he had. So all the gods got together, and were like, "Dude, we need to do something for this. He's not respecting what we've given him." So one god said, let's take his superpowers and hide them in the sky. And then another god said, no, he's always enjoyed looking towards the skies. He's going to find the superpowers very fast. So another god said, let's hide them at the bottom of the ocean. Ah, no, he's going to go there. Obviously, he's already involved with water. So lots of gods kept saying, let's hide them here, let's hide them there, and everybody was like, no, this guy is too intelligent. He's going to find these superpowers very fast. What do we do? So one of the junior gods kind of said, hey, I have an idea. How about we hide his superpowers inside him? And that's what they did. And then the story goes that man went and explored the skies and explored the heavens and the hells, looking for his powers, but he could not seek within. And that's essentially what happened to all of us here with Protectera and the work that we do, that the answers lie deep within. If we are able to create compassion at any point of time in life, the earth doesn't need saving and protecting. The earth's a phenomenally functioning organism. I live with 40 animals. They seem to be pretty happy. Climate change is not really bothering them. Neither is the Russian-Ukrainian war, and neither are a lot of these things, right? They kind of are coexisting very peacefully. So the trouble really is with our species and the fact that we have this disconnect, and that's essentially where our work comes. That if we feel connected and we can love the mother, then we possibly can't abuse the mother. It's the fact that that disconnect happened where the misuse and abuse comes from, and that's what we work towards through all the various initiatives that we have. I'm sitting at my tent, and I think if I have a couple more minutes, please tell me on time before we take questions and answers.
Very good, Pooja. You can.
Yeah. So I would love to show you around till wherever internet allows me. 1 second.
Sure.
We actually are celebrating the 11th year of Protectera. So today we have a huge event. So the farm actually doesn't look like what it's supposed to look like. There's chairs and red carpets and whatnot happening. So this is Tadi, who's been barking. 1 second, let me turn this around. Hi, Tadi. Choo choo. This is one of them. We have 9 dogs. Sorry, like I said, we are in the middle of preps. So that's the tent I live in. So one of the reasons I shifted into a tent was I felt hypocritical living in a plush penthouse apartment and talking about conservation. I felt like, I have an air conditioning and all kinds of connections, and how can I say connect when I'm not there? So I believe it was Bob Marley. I think it was Marley or Lennon, one of the two, who said that, living with nature is very romantic until you actually live with nature. So when I have water flooding the tent, I realize that I don't like the rain as much. And so we have a bunch of cottages. So we build out of scrap and waste. That's one of the cottages. My internet probably will go funny if I go all the way behind. So it's all made out of scrap and waste and what people give away. So when we were talking about carbon footprint, it was not really only about using eco-friendly material. It was really about material that was going to just become garbage. So that's one more cottage. Again, apologies, we are in the middle of an event. So this is made out of earth cob and stuff like that. So when people come and stay with us and they say, Pooja ji, do you have a villa? I show them, yes, I do. And they say, do you have air conditioning? And I say, yes, I do. It's open windows. There are no curtains. I must, though people never like to see bathrooms, I must show you the little bathroom, because a lot of these were part of the journey of evolving for how we build barriers. So I get so many people who essentially, that's me, hello. I get so many people who come and say, oh, how can you have a bath? It has no walls. And I'm like, what's the worst thing that can happen, right? Somebody will see you nangu. I think it's not the end of the world, but people have immense amount of barriers with the simplest of things. So that's the tent. We've salvaged 80% of what we use. That's a kitchen. So it's a little kitchenette. I've been living here for 7 years as of 9th March now. So that's the little kitchenette. I gave up most international products about a few years ago, try to live as locally as possible. All our cats have disappeared for the day. They've already eaten and mamushed. This is a little interesting little space. This is our altar. And in the altar, actually, it's got a wonderful story, which maybe for another day, another forum. But it's full of animals. Then people saw that, are, there's a mandir, we should put a shivling. Are, we should put some god. So they came and gave gods. But the mandir was created for these two little cats. So it's got loads of different animals. I believe, for those of you here, I believe I'm a practicing witch, in any case, on most days, in a good way. And then it's a 2.5 acre space, which family has owned for many years, and I asked for it to be worked with. So like I said, we have red carpets today for an event. But generally, right now there's tables and chairs, but this is kind of the open area, and we're tied up with an architect over there for a mud cottage. And in the last few years, I think last 10 years that I've worked with this space, we've planted over 1,500, 1,800 trees, been home to more than 100 animals on and off, including some elephants at one point of time. So that's our basic thing. So it's a farm residence only area for dogs, cats, animals, and angels. That's basically the farm.
Thank you.
Lovely, Pooja. Thank you so much for showing us the beautiful space. We would like to also share how this animal shelter journey and the transformation happened in the farm.
So we're not really an animal shelter. I don't believe that we need to rescue animals. I think they keep coming in our lives to rescue us.
True.
I've just always had animals in my life. I've never gone looking to rescue. Sab aa gaye. They've always just shown up from here or there, like the elephants. I had 4 elephants staying with me that were rescued from a circus for about 3 months. I didn't go looking for them, and I understood why they say there's an elephant in the room. I mean, it was crazy to have 4 elephants living here. So they've come finding me to handhold me and support me to a large extent, I always believe. And you keep caring for them as long. My one of my gurujis who passed away recently, he always said, in your karam, it is seva. So you do seva. In their karam, it is to show up for you. And I remember that all the time, especially when they're in suffering or I get an injured animal or an animal dies. I just have to remember again and again because loss is difficult, and I get attached to the animals. He tells me, आपके कर्म में सेवा है, just keep doing seva as long as they allow you to do it.
Great. This is like so wonderful. आपके कर्म में सेवा है, and their work is to keep on showing up. So with that, let's do a little bit more seva. So from the audience, anyone wants to ask questions, put it on a chat or raise your hand, and we can take some questions now. Let us give a chance to do some seva. I see many. Sir.
Vaibhav, I'm on the phone, so will you curate the questions because I can't see everyone?
I will.
Yeah. So there's a question: what is telepathic animal communication and how it works? This is the one question which has come. If you can share something around that.
Of course. Thank you for the question. Telepathic animal communication is essentially interspecies communication, and the fact that just because of language, because of the barrier of the way we speak a language, doesn't imply that interspecies communication doesn't occur. So all animals and beings connect with each other. So in The Secret Life of Trees, the author talks about how trees maintain a network of communication through their roots. Animals communicate with each other regularly about all kinds of things. It's us who kind of again disconnected from our disconnected from our inner selves to connect. So it happens telepathically to the effect that um, you have, I mean, if you're thinking of someone for a long time, like say I'm thinking of Priya ji for many days, and suddenly shows up in front of me, and or suddenly I have a phone call from her, and I'm like, you won't believe it, 100 साल जिएंगे आप, अब भी आपके बारे में सोच रही थी, I was just thinking about you, you know what? And that to telepathic animal communicators is the fact that we put energy out and asked for something which came back as we wanted it. So it usually happens. So, for example, if I'm talking with any of my dogs, they'll show me visions, or they'll make me, they'll show me wording. So it happens in the mind. It's challenging to keep checking into authenticity as to whether it's your mind or it's you that's giving you this answer. So it's very difficult to talk with your own animals because you know them so well. So you're second guessing all the time. It's easier to talk with strangers, animals, because you don't know their temperament and personality. So I usually avoid asking my animals a lot of questions because I'm only giving my own answers. They're all, always favorable to what I want to hear. But yeah, telepathy. There's a lady called Manjari Latte in Pune who basically started the movement of training people and getting people initiated into this.
Okay, we have one more question. Let's ask: is wolf or is it an owlet that is your spirit animal? So I don't know whether you.
I think it's my friend who's asked that question.
Yeah.
Hi Kalyan. It's both are a spirit animal. They both show up when is required. The owlet is a lot stronger currently.
Who would like to also share what is the spirit animal with the people who are not aware about these things?
Spirit animals, angels, spirit guides are those creatures, and some are in body, like our friends come as angels to support us. Our animals we live with come as spirit guides, and then there are some that are ascended spirit guides. And it is said in shamanism, which is one of the world's oldest spiritual practices, that each one of us have totem animals, each one of us have spirit guides. So I know, like, usually they have 5 power animals and 9 prevalent animals that are playing a role. So my friend and I are always joking about whether the wolf or the owl. So that was an internal question.
Okay, great. So I have one question for you, maybe two.
Mhm.
One is the A Journey of Kindness, the magazine which has been started, and about the second journey as a sportswoman. How is it like different roles you are playing? How this all
I'm just trying to reset on
works
my
for you
mic.
and things around that.
Um, the kindness is a beautiful little thing. I encourage all of you to support it and to subscribe to it. Weber will probably send you the link later. The kindness is a dream that I've nurtured for 7 years. Uh, it is a print publication, hand illustrated uh, reference document on conservation, compassion, and awareness. And it's a team of students who I've worked with and people like Kalyan who asked the question. He's one of the people on the kindness. The purpose of the kindness is Pooja can't be everywhere and everybody can't reach the farm, but there's different ways to keep reaching out. And that's how the kindness was born. We recently, Vaibhav, in fact, just last Friday, as in the Friday that, I mean, day before, we launched something known as the Kindness Collective, which is bringing the kindness into platforms where it can create conversation. So we just had our first meeting on Friday. That's a free open forum to take the reading of the kindness and create conversations around it. So the kindness is theme based, and we pick everything from environmental psychology to balance. We launched last August. So we're now in our ninth edition, and yeah, it's I call the farm my child, passion child, and then the kindness is completely my heart child. It's everything that I'll probably leave behind, so to say. And the second question, the second part was sportswoman. There's a question that was asked, is usually asked in forums, ki if you were not doing what you do, what would you be? I would be a professional sportsman. That I would have, if in the time that I grew up, if there was more opportunity, shayad मैं conservation नहीं करती थी. I probably would have been a professional sportswoman. I strongly believe that music and sports are two things that surpass all kinds of gender inequalities, uh, races. I mean, for example, a Michael Jackson concert, everybody's there enjoying the music, right? But the same way, sports and especially team sports unites people so beautifully and builds just so many. Tadi would like to say hi. Builds so many incredible qualities. So rugby happened to me at the age of 31. I started playing rugby at 31 and was selected on the Maharashtra team at 33. I'm currently one of the oldest players on the team. But I've always been an athlete and a basketball player and stuff. Like, I'm a sprinter. भागना बहुत आसान है.
Yeah, so there are a couple of more questions.
Mhm.
So, do you feel discouraged when you don't get the expected results, or how do you motivate yourself?
Hmm. Yes and no. Thank you for the question. I do get discouraged, but I get discouraged when I've already attached myself to the way I want the outcome to be, and I've forgotten that the outcome is going to be what it needs to be, not what I want it to be. So, especially at the times where I can openly say that I'm heavily PMSed, I'm very discouraged all the time because I'm already moody and all over the place. But in times where I'm, in a good mental state, I know that the universe is taking the turns that it has to. My higher self is aware that it's giving me what I need to grow, not what I want. So, and motivation's never been difficult. When you believe in what you do, there's divine grace to remain motivated all the time.
Wow. So, one more question. How do you get sure about your spirit animal, and what are the quality it carries into you?
Don't I look like a wolf? Um, there are journeys there are journeys that are led. Shamans will lead spirit animal journeys to find your spirit animal. That's one way if you really, really, really want to know. The other way is the animal keeps showing up. You'll keep seeing it again and again and again. Usually, everybody who has dogs or cats in their house will have an associated wild animal spirit, because domestic animals don't take on spirits. Just 1 second. Seema Maushi, माझा call चालू आहे. Please झटकू नका मागे. पलीकडचं करता. So usually they will show up. So I have a Siberian Husky who found me through great trauma, and I mean, it doesn't get more wolfy than that, to be perfectly honest. He's disappeared somewhere today. I don't know where he's sitting. But the attributes that they give, so spirit animals will do one of two things or both. They'll either help you accentuate what needs to be strengthened, and or they will mellow down what is in excess. So people who have, for example, the lion as a spirit guide, either have a very inflated ego and the lion is helping mellow that down, or they're very underconfident and the lion is helping build it up. I mean, very simplistically speaking, this is, obviously there's a lot more to this than such a simple answer, but to give you an idea. So for example, my primary spirit animal is the crow, which I was very disappointed with when I found out, because I wanted it to be something glorious like a leopard or something. It was a crow when I found out. I'm like, what crow? And then I read about crows and what they have to bring, and they are essentially agents of change and agents of they're connectors between lives.
Wonderful. So, next question someone has asked: did you face any challenges as a woman in your journey?
Per se, no, not specifically because of my predisposed gender. The challenges I face maybe is in the people management of the farm. So because ground staff just prefers listening to the voice of a man, they kind of dismiss the fact that I'm a young woman. So ever, like, there are a few of my anchor friends who will come along, and when they're there, then they'll be like, "Arey, Dada has come, so now we need to do stuff." Or if my dad shows up once in a while, "Oh, Dad, sir is here." So I'm just like, I've been screaming the same thing for the last 4 days, guys. What the hell? So I think our conditioning is very patriarchal. I can't say I have faced a problem, but there is a lot of patriarchy, and that does snake down in decision making processes, and how much people listen to my voice, and how much they listen in general to any instruction I give. Like, a woman as an authority is not necessarily taken well. And given that most of my staff is older to me by 20 years, they're like, "Yeah, she's just yapping."
Wonderful. So, yes, Uma, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, Pooja, there's one thing we talked about, the equation of love and fear and courage. And I think, seconding to challenges and what motivated you, I'm just taking a thread from that, saying, Pooja, you've had so many different facets of yourself. You've had a journey from within that you spoke about. So what held you? Where was your anchor? How did you find that? And through that came this, the quest of love and kindness. So if you could share a little bit more about that.
It's a very wonderful question, and there's multiple ways I could answer that. I mean, there are those anchors that are external of me. The fact that I have a supportive family who has been not just the sounding board but my biggest critics. Family is there to push all your buttons always, and the fact that they've done that diligently all my life. I think externally it's having an incredibly supportive family for all my life choices, not just my professional life choices. But also, I think knowing your, like, as a light worker, because we know our purpose so deeply and we know what we've been put on this planet for, the anchor is really the fact that all I know is that I should wake up and be impressed with who I am in the mirror and go to sleep feeling the same way. And anybody else's opinion really, really, really doesn't matter. And there's a saying that when you really reach a place where you don't need anyone's approval, you've reached a very dangerous level of freedom, because then it just doesn't matter what you do. And I've touched that where just nobody mattered and come back, and then now found anchors in my people, my animals. The animals I live with are huge anchors. A lot of the times where I feel like quitting and just upping it and saying, I don't want to do this, I look at them and they're just like, hello, mama, can we go for a walk? And you're just like, all right. So yeah, I think the animals and authenticity, I know what I'm here for very deeply. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. So there is one last question from Srinivasan ji. Please unmute and ask.
Yeah, the thank speech was very inspirational. What do you want? How tell them, or what should we do to come into your way or be passionate with whatever you're doing?
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Could somebody repeat that for me?
Sorry, can you hear me once again?
I can.
Yeah. So what do you want to say to the next generation? How they want to follow your, their passion? How did you go, and what do you want to tell the future generation on how you should follow your passion?
Okay. Thank you, G. I work with a lot of young people as a professor, and there's two sets of people, right? Those that are privileged and those that are not privileged. And I think with those that are not privileged in terms of either economics or family support or challenges that they just need to worry about finding a steady job and earning money. With those, I honestly never push my way through. I'm just happy they would be able to do any part of it because the responsibility is not on their shoulders at all because they're just trying to get by in life. But the ones that are privileged, which is the crowd that I end up working with at the colleges, one of the things I always leave them with in the end is that you're not worrying about where your next meal is coming from. So the responsibility is squarely on your shoulders to really, really rise up to the occasion of being change makers and not just sitting and smoking pot all day long and, fapping about and complaining about the world because you have everything that is going for you. So I remind the elite and the wealthy all the time that you have the privilege of choice. All of us sitting here have the privilege of doing this on a Sunday morning. So that privilege is really, really key. We really shouldn't be complaining about the situation, but rising up to the occasion and doing it is something I firmly believe. But one of the things I keep telling or sharing with people is please don't follow me. I'm a very flawed human being. If you can find places where you feel inspiration, please take it. However, a reminder I give myself is I will always be the villain in somebody else's book. So I should live my life impressing myself, and that's the best thing I can do. And that's what I tell people, that somebody's always going to judge you no matter what you're doing. So just do what you love, whatever that might be. Do it with great truth. That's it. It doesn't have to be environmental stuff. It could be anything.
Thank you.
Deep gratitude, Pooja. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. My hands are holding my phone. I'm trying to keep it steady. No, I'll have to
Thanks a lot, Pooja, and such an authentic journey. And I hope as you said, your karma as seva continues, and you continue to inspire many of us. There are many of the people who have joined here who already said that they would like to visit your farm and visit your place. So maybe that will happen too. So thank you so much. And thank you everyone for being here. And we also have every hour, like there is a session. So till 8 p.m., we will be having sessions. So please do join us. Please continue to support us. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. And Pooja.
Yes,
Thank
great.
you,
And there's a
Yeah,
link
that two things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Pooja, people want to know how to volunteer with your organization as well. Should we just give your link to the group?
So I think the best thing to do is our website's a little outdated and static, but you can just share my WhatsApp number and I will be happy to reach out individually. I'd like to thank the other 12 women. I see some names that are here. Thank you for your powerful journeys and the fact that you're going to bring incredible stuff to the table today. I have 180 people showing up at 4 o'clock, so I'm unfortunately not going to be logged in for the rest of the day. But thank you for bringing authenticity and incredible grace to each one of you, to the Eyes Trust, and to Vaibhav for always finding my journey worth sharing. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Pooja, for taking out time today in already a busy day. Just last one announcement. As we listen to Pooja's journey, there must be some quality, some saying which must have touched every one of us. So Uma has shared a link. I'm resharing it again. So please take 1 minute of time, go to that link and fill that quality which has touched you anyway today, so that we can consolidate and make it more powerful, give that power to the quality so that that quality manifests and evolves in every one of life who are watching it right now, participating it live on YouTube, or who are going to watch it this later on also. Let's she evolves continuously. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Pooja, once again for joining us. Namaste.